Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We're back at it with another Star Wars Legion rules video. We are covering the third installment of the new rules previews that AMG has been giving us. There is a whole new rulebook coming in January, and as a kind of teaser for that, they have been releasing articles that talk about some of the new rules. And in today's preview, we're going to be talking about Suppression and Panic, the big changes to Star Wars Legion's kind of Suppression Panic system that is being talked about in this article. And I'm going to give you some of my thoughts as well as some of the information that's not in this article that has also been confirmed by Atomic Mass Games personnel that is going to shed more light and more context on these rules changes. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are still giving away lots of giveaways. We have the 12 Days of Life Day going all month long. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Also, we are doing the lightsaber giveaway that's running through New Year's. Again, also be a subscriber and comment. It's as simple as that. Also want to thank today's sponsor, Luxury Playstyle. Amazing full metal tokens, and they are compatible with Legion. They're double-sided, they're heavy, they're gorgeous, they're shiny, they're beautiful. You're going to love these tokens. I absolutely love them. I actually helped design a lot of these tokens, and a lot of my heart goes into these tokens. They're fantastic. And if you're going to save 15% using code Crabbok VIP, if you head over to luxuryplaystyle.com, so don't forget to use that code. They make amazing stocking stuffers. Just like again, you're probably doing late Christmas shopping at this point, right? So print out your little order form, or print out a picture of it, put it in their stocking. Like, hey, this is on the way. This is on the way. It's a great, or maybe a little gift for yourself if you don't get what you wanted. Don't forget that code. All right, so let's talk about these rules, folks. There's quite a bit in here. There's a little bit about the theory behind it. So if you want to go ahead and check this one out, this one, at least as of when I'm recording this video, it's not actually on Atomic Mass Games' website. If you go there natively, it is certainly being hosted there. But if you go to the Legion section and the Legion transmissions, this one isn't like included in that part yet. So you have to actually find them on social media to get this link. I'll go ahead and put a link to it in the video description below so you can get to it directly. But usually all the other documents, I mean, they're going to link to them, but typically you can go to atomicmassgames.com, click on Star Wars Legion, and find all the different stuff that you're looking for right there. But this one, for whatever reason, just isn't there yet. So now, granted, by the time you're watching this video, it may actually show up. But either way, I'll put a link in the description below. So let's summarize here. They were working on the core rulebook. They decided that they didn't think that Panic and Suppression were kind of doing what it was intended to do. There was some they said there was some the functionality of Panic was at odds with the written rules language, leading to some ambiguity and problematic interactions. And they didn't like there were certain scenarios where you kind of had the only way to win was to completely defeat a certain unit. And like there might be a case where like a single unit, like a single Pike or a single Rebel Trooper has got tons of dodge tokens and is kind of guarding an objective, and you can't, you got to try to kill him, but you don't have enough firepower because it's late in the game, but you have him suppressed, and things like that. Well, and so that was one of the things they were trying to work in. And I feel like some of these rules don't completely reflect that vision because I have some concerns with a lot of this as we'll see. But let me go ahead and read you some of the rules changes right now. Some big things is well, let me read the rules inserts sections here, and then we'll talk about what this actually means. After rallying, if a unit begins its perform action step while suppressed, it performs one fewer action during its perform actions step. All right, no change there. If we go down to this next part, if a unit begins its perform action step while panicked, it cannot perform any actions or free actions and drops any claimed objective tokens it may have. Then, if a unit did not perform any actions or free actions due to panic, at the end of the unit's activation, it removes suppression tokens equal to its courage value. Now that's a big change, because what that means, and what they talk about earlier, is that a panicked unit is no longer going to flee the battlefield. That was certainly something that could have some ambiguity, so I understand their reasoning as it applies to panic, and I think that that is largely been seen by some early adopters and early folks who have seen these rules as a positive change. I think units not running from the battlefield is thematically accurate. I think if you are panicked in the middle of a battlefield, you're probably more likely to freeze than to get up and run away. It takes a little bit more initiative to get up and run away. That's almost like a deserter faction, and there's a big difference between desertion and panic. And also again, if you got bullets flying at you and you've frozen up to the point of panic, getting up to run away is more likely to get you shot in the back. So I think it's a thematic change, although not all changes have to be thematic. Sometimes a change can lean more towards game mechanics and less towards theme. But in this case, I think it works for both, although I did have some initial issues with the idea of a panicked unit staying put, especially as it applies to somebody who is on an objective, something like key positions, or someone that is basically touching an objective that now they're still going to be touching that objective, so they can't make you run away, and that was kind of the point sometimes. So it will reference this next bullet point here where it says panicked units and objective tokens they have claimed cannot be used to satisfy victory conditions on an objective card. Now, this is interesting because, for one, it says on an objective card specifically, so it could be that they also wanted to leave some room for scenarios that happen to allow panicked people to work, and I think that's kind of cool. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not a big fan of specialized scenarios. I like to play the tournament objective cards most of the time because they all make their own scenario, and so I like the scenarios that kind of feed into tournament play rather than the homebrew or the OP scenarios as much. But that's just my preference. But I like that they left the door open for any of those. But while also clearly, for tournament rules at least, talking about objective cards, this is what Panic is going to work on. It is a little strange though that they say panicked units and objective tokens they have claimed, because earlier it does say that when you do panic, you will drop any objective tokens that you are carrying. So how could you be a panicked unit that has claimed objectives unless they're just leaving the door open for good future proofing? There could be an objective someday that were to say that this objective is not droppable. Maybe it's a permanent thing. Maybe thematically, maybe there's some kind of droid that's giving out Bacta infusions, but it's corrupted Bacta, but you needed to get the injection to bring it back to the rebel base to get studied, or maybe there's an Imperial tattoo artist that is only giving out 5 tattoos, and the first 5 people to get to him get the victory points, and you can't just, or something like that, right? My point is, this is good future proofing. So yeah, panicked units and objective tokens they have claimed cannot be used to satisfy victory conditions on an objective card. So that kind of answers the whole thing. Oh, if I panicked, I stay put. But the thing that is most significant about this rules change to me is that a panicked unit removes suppression token equal to its courage value at the end of its activation. This is a pretty big change, and it means, I think, when we're looking at the rules as they are now, by adding this change, this would mean that most units are never panicked. They would panic just for or never panicked to the point of needing to put the token out there. Because let's say you panic, or you're going to pretty much lose your activation. You can't take any actions or free actions. They put those things in there specifically, and I think that's also just good future proofing. I like the wording for some of this because there could be something else that happens to happen during your activation. There could be something else that happens that's not an action or a free action. There could be some kind of status effect that happens, or when a unit activates, it's something happens. Maybe a nearby unit has to do something or whatever, right? So they left the door open for other functionality as opposed to just saying you skip the activation. But in reality, 99% of the time, you're going to just skip the activation and then jump to the end of the activation, and then they're going to remove suppression tokens. But you still have your rally step. So let's take a unit like Luke Skywalker. Like tough units like that are almost, well, first off, they can never panic off the board anymore. But let's just say I were to take Luke Skywalker and run him up to key positions, right? And he's touching that middle objective. Oh, and you were going to try to make him panic with some suppressive shots and stuff. You'd have to get an obscene amount to make him panic. As a Courage 3 character, you'd have to have 6 suppression remaining to be considered panicking. But then you're still going to remove 3. And you rally. So let's just say you had 10 suppression, which is an obscenely high number. You would, let's say you roll 4 off, 3 or 4 off. 4 would be a decent roll, right? Something like that. Well, then on top, maybe you've got some Inspire out there also. Maybe you got Luke and Leia. But let's say you rolled 4 off, you still got 6 left. Oh, I'm still panicked, but then I'm going to remove 3, right? Let's say I had 12 and I rolled, or 15 or however much. I would have to have so much that after removing 3, I still had 6. So I'd have to have 9 suppression left after rallying, which means I'd probably have to have like at least 13, if not 15 suppression on a Courage 3 commander to actually make them panic and not count, because otherwise they're going to just go down to slightly less than 6 and then not be panicked again. And since you don't check for panic until the start of an activation, they'd just be permanently not panicked. Well, that was initially a big red flag to me on reading this article, but it has been confirmed by Talk Polite, aka LJ Pena, who's from the Rules Forum, that there's more here than we are learning about. That basically you're going to be checking for panic all the time. It's like a constant scan. So initially, if you read this, you might think, "Oh man, this really doesn't change. This actually makes panic worse." Or less effective, less impactful, since it's like almost never going to be a thing beyond losing your actions. But in this case, let's say you do remove that. Well, I can get shot maybe one more time. This puts me back over. So especially shots that happen after your activation are really going to be a more significant thing, because now you can go into panic after the fact. And I think that's a really interesting change. And here's a very interesting tidbit in that I think that this helps kind of fix something that was broken but seldom abused, and that's the keyword fire support. So a unit that has fire support would easily be able to, like clones, for example, like they've got red saves, so the clones could potentially have lots of suppression. Well, let's say you give that clone order under the old rules, right? The rules as they are today and yesterday, right? The clones could have tons of panic and maybe there are tons of suppression and being able to panic, but I could circumvent that because I could give them a face-up order token and then have them fire support, adding their dice to another unit's attack pool. And then I never actually activate, so they never have a rally step, and thus are never declared to be in a state of panic, and I don't ever have to worry about them running off the board or suffering any negative consequences whatsoever. If they have an objective token, they would never drop it, so on and so forth. But if indeed the confirmation is written correctly in the rulebook, and it basically, if that's true, that we are actually checking panic now all the time, as soon as a unit gets that double amount, it is then instantly put into panic and then drops its objective tokens. You don't have to wait for them to activate. They can't score. And so it's very interesting. Now, they're not going to run off the board, but they will potentially lose those activations. Now, what we don't know is if there's any other changes related to suppression that were left out. Like if they left out a big step that panic is checked statically all the time right now. And of course, this is all as of the time that I'm recording this video, which is actually Monday night. So if something has changed like late Monday night or early Tuesday morning before you watch this video, then I just want to give you guys a frame of reference because sometimes they do make changes to these documents after the initial posting. But I think that's a pretty significant change, and we're still assuming that other things are going to be the same. Like you'll still remove a suppression at the beginning of a round, that you still your rally step still works the same, and all of that other stuff. I have to presume that sort of stuff is basically the same, and if so, then this will be a very interesting change, and it's going to be interesting to see how much panic changes things, and I'm not really a big fan of all of these changes right off the bat, but they're going to take some time to digest and process, and definitely a couple of games played. I did have some builds. I was working through a Krennic build right now that's designed to put out a lot of suppression, and I feel like if all I'm doing is denying you an activation, then that might not be all that great, especially since you could easily just lose all that panic when you do activate. But at least for cheaper troopers, then it'll be nice to deny Pikes the ability to take extra dodges or free shots. But I really was hoping to make some Pikes panic off the board. Like I kind of felt like my entire Legion identity was turning into, let's make Pikes panic and run away and just eliminate a Pike like that. Unfortunately, right now, it seems like you're not going to be able to just kind of keep people in perpetual panic anymore. And that can probably be a good thing if you're on the receiving end of that sort of stuff. And that's pretty much about it for this article. When we do learn that the next article that is going to be coming out probably Wednesday afternoon, so we'll talk about this Thursday morning, is going to deal with updates on movement and access to high ground. Now, don't know much about this. I was hoping they were going to deal with terrain, and this might certainly do that, but this is probably going to shed new light on why our grappling hooks got a points increase. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think. Jump into our Discord and let me know. Let me know in the comments section. Check out the links for social media as well as the link to this article. They're all going to be in the video description below. I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. And big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible. So thank you for your continued support. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. So say we all. God save the queen. Wait, I don't even think there's any queen. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Let's happy holidays. Hakuna Matata.